Hi everyone. In this lesson we are going to introduce a notion of determiners, and the main aim is to describe and classify determiners and the different subclasses of determiners using distributional criteria. To do so, we are going to organize the lesson as follows. First, we are going to introduce determiners, and we are going to see what is it that makes them determiners, that is, what the properties are and how they can be recognized in relation to other word categories. Then we are going to see the subclassification of determiners and the grammatical information carried by those different types of determiners. Also, we will use distributional criteria to describe this word category and also to describe the structure that is projected by a determiner, that is, a determiner phrase. And by the end of the lesson, we are going to explain how to work with grammatical data, how to describe determiners and how to compare determiners to other word categories. So, what are determiners and why are they classified as such? To answer these two questions, we first need to recall the differences, the distinction between lexical categories and functional categories. We will focus on lexical categories first. As you can see, the noun child and the adjective simple belong to this class. Lexical categories have semantic or lexical meaning. That is, you can look them up in the dictionary and you will get a description of what they mean. You can also think of synonyms for lexical categories, and you can always have new members in this class. That is, new words can be created, new words can be borrowed from other languages, but this is not possible in the case of functional categories. As you can see, the determiner the and the quantifier some are examples of functional categories. Why are they functional? Well, because they have a function, a grammatical function in the phrase or in the sentence they are part of. So functional categories do not carry semantic meaning. They do not mean something by themselves. Instead, what they have is grammatical information. They have grammatical features that allow us to distinguish among them. Okay? So functional categories refer to a closed class. No new members can be added to the class of functional categories. Alright? And for example, if you look the word some, if you look up the word some in the dictionary, you will not get the same type of definition as when you look up a lexical category. Okay? So to describe or to define a functional category in the dictionary, you need to use grammatical terminology. Alright? So having this in mind, now we know that determiners are functional categories or functional words, and they are grouped together because they share some common properties. Okay? There on the screen you have some examples of determiners. We will see them and study them in detail in the following slides. And this is a crucial piece of information. Determiners always carry some kind of grammatical information and little or no lexical meaning. And this is, as we said, typical of functional categories. We now know that determiners are functional categories and that they are grouped together because they share some common properties. So if we consider the broad class of determiners, that is, all the elements that can be considered determiners, we can say that all of them, that is, all determiners, select a noun phrase complement, and that all determiners will specify the noun head of that noun phrase complement. Alright? But still, if we take into account the broad class of determiners, we can see that within that classification we can find
subtypes or subclasses of determiners. So in the chart on the screen, you can see that there are definite, indefinite, possessive, demonstrative, and interrogative determiners. All these subtypes of determiners will be considered and described in the following slides. But before we move on, you need to have in mind that when describing determiners and the subclasses of determiners, some of them will carry certain grammatical features, whereas some others will carry different grammatical features. All right? Remember that all determiners carry grammatical information, and this grammatical information can be related to number, person, definiteness, or specificity. So, the specific type of grammatical information that each subtype of determiner has will specify the noun's reference, as we will see in the rest of the presentation. Well, to introduce these differences among the subclasses of determiners, let's look at 3 examples: a car, the car, and cars. These 3 phrases are determiner phrases, and they are analyzed as DPs, or determiner phrases, because the head in all these constructions is a determiner. In the first case, a is a determiner, the is a determiner in the second case, and the null determiner in the third case is also the head of a determiner phrase. So we will see that different determiners, the choice of a determiner, affects how the noun head of the noun phrase complement is interpreted. Just by looking at these examples, you know that a car is different to the car or to cars. They are interpreted differently. And so we can ask this question: in what ways are a determiner and its noun phrase complement related? Determiners are necessary in English and in many other languages because they allow us to assign a specific interpretation to the noun they select as complement, as we saw in the previous examples. So, as they are functional categories and they carry grammatical information, this interpretation is possible because determiners carry information about definiteness and specificity. So the combination of definiteness and specificity provides reference to this noun head. To make it clear, this information, which is encoded in each determiner, in each subtype of determiner, provides reference to the noun head of the noun phrase complement. All right? And this is what we labeled as grammatical information. To clarify these notions, look at the chart. This chart contains the grammatical information carried by determiners, some types of grammatical information carried by determiners, and specifically the one that has to do with reference. So let's look at the first column, specific reference. The definite determiner the assigns specific reference to the noun head of its noun phrase complement. All right? So the is used when the speaker and listener know who or what the referent, the thing you're talking about, is. And this happens when there is only one entity in the world, for example, the Earth, the planet Earth, or when the entity in question has been mentioned before, as in the example, I saw a TV series about a woman in the street. The woman used to be a lawyer. In the second case, in the second instance in which woman is mentioned, the definite determiner is used because that entity, woman, has already been mentioned before. All right? This is how specific reference is realized. Now let's look at the second column, general or indefinite reference. This is another type of reference. The determiner a or an is used when the noun phrase complement does not refer to any specific entity. Okay, as in the examples, I saw Peter with a beautiful woman. We do not know which specific woman that is, all right? That's why the type of reference assigned to woman, to the noun woman, is general or indefinite reference. How is this assigned? By the use of the indefinite determiner a or an, okay? So as you know, the indefinite determiner is used with singular countable nouns, all right? You cannot say a cars, combining an indefinite determiner with a countable noun in the plural form. There are some restrictions that you need to have in mind and that you may already know, of course. And last, in the third column, we have generic reference. And this one may be tricky because determiners are realized by a word in the two first cases, but in this case, we are analyzing the zero determiner, all right? The zero determiner doesn't have a phonological realization. Okay, remember what we discussed about non-overt morphology? Well, this is an example of it. The zero determiner is not pronounced, but still it's a fully functional category. So we use the zero determiner when we refer to the whole set of entities denoted by the noun. This determiner assigns generic reference to the noun head of the noun phrase complement, all right? And it is used with plural countable nouns and with uncountable nouns. These are the restrictions. So for example, you can say, I like flowers, and in that case you have a plural countable noun and a zero determiner that's selected as complement, or you can also say they love chocolate. Chocolate is an uncountable noun, and again, this is a noun phrase selected by a determiner head. In this case, the determiner head is filled with a zero determiner. All right? And once again, why do we study determiners? Well, let's look at these examples again. We said that the use of one determiner or another affects, in fact, determines how the noun head of the noun phrase complement is interpreted. And now we know that in the case of a car, the indefinite determiner a or e provides indefinite reference to the noun car, that the definite determiner the provides definite reference to the noun car, and that the zero or null determiner provides generic reference to the noun cars. All right? Determiners will always assign reference to the noun phrase complement. All right? They will always carry some kind of grammatical information. But this grammatical information will vary from one determiner to another.